The plasma conduit hissed like a dying star as Eitzem wedged herself into the maintenance shaft, her shoulders barely fitting through the narrow opening. The weight on her back shifted and tiny claws dug through the fabric of her jumpsuit. Not hard enough to pierce skin, but enough to remind her of the passenger she carried. "Easy, Kira," she muttered, reaching back to steady the makeshift sling that cradled the small predator cub against her spine. From the corridor outside, she heard Commander Vel's footsteps pause. The Zenthari officer's compound eyes had definitely seen her. Eitzem knew that much. But Vel simply cleared his throat and continued walking, his chitinous legs clicking against the metal floor in a rhythm that suggested he'd witnessed absolutely nothing out of the ordinary. The crew had been doing that a lot lately. 3 weeks ago, Eitzem had found Kira in the cargo bay, a trembling ball of striped fur tucked behind a container of deuterium cells. The cub species, Vraxi, the galaxy's most feared apex predators, were supposed to be contained on their homeworld under strict Galactic Council protocols. How a juvenile had ended up on a human-crewed merchant vessel was a mystery Eitzem hadn't bothered to solve. She'd simply scooped up the terrified creature and decided that was a problem for another day. "Wrench," Eitzem said aloud, and felt Kira's small paw pat against the tool belt at her hip. The cub had learned the routine quickly. Eitzem smiled despite the awkward angle of her body, half inverted in the shaft, and retrieved the fusion wrench herself. The other species in the galaxy had rules about Vraxi. Strict ones. They were to be feared, avoided, reported immediately to authorities. A single adult Vraxi could tear through a battle cruiser's hull with its bare claws, or so the stories went. Their cubs were to be destroyed on sight, too dangerous to allow them to mature. Humans apparently hadn't gotten that memo. Or more accurately, Eitzem had gotten it and filed it somewhere in the back of her mind under someone else's problem. The conduit coupling finally gave way with a satisfying click. Coolant mist sprayed out and Eitzem twisted to shield Kira from the freezing vapor. The cub made a small chirping sound, something between a purr and a growl, and burrowed deeper into the sling. "Almost done, little one," Eitzem whispered. She'd tried to keep Kira hidden at first. Really, she had. But cubs were curious, and Vraxi cubs were apparently very curious. Kira had escaped from Eitzem's quarters twice in the first week, once appearing in the galley during second shift, once somehow materializing in the captain's ready room. The captain, a weathered woman named Chen with more gray in her hair than black, had simply looked down at the cub, then up at Eitzem and said, "I don't see anything. Do you see anything, Eitzem?" "No, Captain." "Good. Get that ghost out of my office before it doesn't leave paw prints on my desk." After that, Eitzem stopped trying to hide her. The rest of the crew followed Chen's lead. When Kira wandered into engineering, the technicians would step carefully around her, discussing their work as if the galaxy's most dangerous predator wasn't currently trying to fit her entire head into a spare parts bin. When she appeared on the bridge, fascinated by the holographic star charts, the navigator would adjust his displays to give her a better view, all while maintaining a conversation about absolutely anything else. Dr. Yisik, the ship's Catharian medical officer, had been the most transparent about the charade. "Humans are ridiculous," she'd told Eitzem over tea in the medbay, while Kira slept in a nest of clean surgical blankets. Any sane species would have jettisoned that creature into space. "Probably," Eitzem had agreed. "She's going to grow up, you know. In 2 standard years she'll be large enough to bite through bulkhead plating." "I know." Yisik had clicked her beak in what might have been amusement or exasperation. "There's a rehabilitation colony on Threx 4. They handle situations like this. I could make discreet inquiries." "That would be helpful, Doctor. In the meantime, she needs proper nutrition. I've prepared a dietary supplement." Yisek had slid a data chip across the table. "And Eitzem? I didn't see you in here." This conversation never happened. Now wedged in a maintenance shaft with Kira sleeping soundly against her back, Eitzem finished replacing the damaged coupling and began the slow process of extracting herself. It was harder on the way out. She had to move carefully to avoid waking the cub, and the sling threw off her center of balance. A hand appeared in her line of sight. She looked up to find Vel standing there, his expression unreadable in the way of all Zenthari. "Need assistance, engineer?" Eitzem grasped his forearm, and the commander pulled her free with surprising gentleness. Once she was standing, Vel's eyes flickered briefly to the bulge on her back, then away. "Conduit repaired?" he asked. "Yes, sir. Should hold until we reach Outpost Kepler." "Excellent work." Vel paused, then added, "I've been meaning to tell you. We've had reports of unusual sounds in the cargo bay. Maintenance drones malfunctioning, most likely. Nothing that requires investigation." "Understood, Commander." "Good." He turned to leave, then glanced back. "My homeworld has a saying, the strongest nest is built by those who see what others miss. Perhaps it applies here. Or perhaps not. I wouldn't know. I didn't see anything." After he left, Itzum felt Kira stir against her back. A small, rough tongue licked her ear affectionately. "Come on, you," she murmured. "Let's get you some dinner before the night shift pretends not to trip over you in the corridor." As she walked through the ship, Itzum passed crew members who nodded at her, smiled at her, discussed ship business with her, and every single one of them looked determinedly at anything except the small, striped predator riding between her shoulders. Humans were good at many things, Itzum reflected. But perhaps their greatest talent was knowing exactly when to look the other way.